Hello and welcome to CDC Profiles. Our featured resource person for this episode is Dr. Sigfried Galang. Hello, doctor. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mari Camo. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Sir, for our audience, can you briefly explain your medical background and your particular specialty or field of practice?
Okay, I graduated from St. Luke's College of Medicine in 2003, and from then on, I did conventional medicine up until 2010, where I started doing integrative practice of medicine. So that is a combination of conventional medicine and alternative and holistic and complementary medicine.
For those of our in our audience who are not familiar with alternative and other complementary medicines, can you explain very briefly about that?
Okay, alternative complementary medicine includes traditional Chinese medicine, the concept of traditional Chinese medicine. So, for example, the concept of yin and yang, so we apply that to complementary or conventional medicine. So, actually, there's a part of conventional medicine where we can apply yin and yang concept. Like, for example, hypertension and then hypotension. Like, there's a yin and yang balance of the blood pressure. So, it's the homeostasis, the going to the balance,
So when you say
making sure
integrative,
everything is in balance.
when you say integrative,
Mm.
you can prescribe conventional medicines or you can choose another alternative form of therapy, which eventually is it your patient which chooses which form they will take?
Definitely, it depends on what clinic I am in. So if it's a conventional practice clinic, then or a hospital, then it would be conventional medicine. But if it's usually I'm in now in the integrative clinics, so I can prescribe both.
All right. Doc, what was your initial reaction to the news of COVID?
My initial reaction is that there is confusion, there is anxiety because we just came from Taal volcano eruption. So where I work is in Lipa City. So we just came from a volcanic eruption crisis. And then suddenly by March, there's this COVID. So there's really anxiety. And then there's the collective fear. So there was an individual fear, but later on it becomes a collective fear. Like everybody is scared. When I watch television, we listen to radio, everybody is scared of what this fear of the unknown.
Is there an impact on a person's health when that happens, Doc?
Definitely, the fear itself actually brings down your immune system. It suppresses your immune system. It's an emotion. In traditional Chinese medicine, fear is not good emotion. So it can actually bring down your immune system. And actually, it can also raise up your cortisol hormone. So that is a stress hormone which suppresses the immune system.
Is that the fight or flight hormone? Is that the right hormone? Is it?
Yes, the fight or flight stress response, which triggers the cortisol to be released from the adrenal glands.
So what would happen is if the cortisol hormone is triggered or the fight or flight hormone is triggered, and yet
Mm.
you have nowhere to run, what does that? What does the patient do with that? You see,
Well, if you have nowhere to run, then you will be stuck up in froze, or another term is freeze mode. So you like you freeze. Yeah, if you watch movies where they couldn't run, that they like they're scared and they couldn't run anymore. They just stuck there like paralyzed.
in that
So it can
state,
happen.
you're not exactly relaxed. You're more even more stressed because you're in a frozen state. You don't know what to do, right? So your
Yeah,
immune
that's
system
more on the
suffers the
extreme
more.
actually. That's more on the extreme actually.
Okay.
The fight or flight response actually on the sympathetic nervous system, and then the freeze mode is on the parasympathetic nervous system, but on another side of the parasympathetic, which is the dorsal vagal part of the parasympathetic.
So, doc, excuse me. Have you personally treated COVID patients?
When I started here at J. Lopez Medical last September, we started entertaining teleconsults for
Okay.
those who have fear, those who have, that they may seem to have COVID symptoms, and those who are being tested for COVID, waiting for the results. So we introduced early treatments already, and also prophylaxis for the nurses, for the healthcare workers. We give pre-exposure and post-exposure prophylaxis using the Zelenko protocol. So
Okay.
that would include and for the early treatment using the Zelenko protocol, using hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and azithromycin.
Okay, for those who have only heard bad things about hydroxychloroquine, what can you tell them very briefly?
Well, hydroxychloroquine is a safe drug. It has been with us 65 years, long 65 years, and those studies that um, malign the hydroxychloroquine is actually using a overdosage um, of the drug. So that's why it can produce side effects. Anything that is even the good ones, the vitamin D, if you high dose it, even the minerals, if you high dose it, it will produce side effects.
Including minerals. That's very interesting. Doc, do you know? Do you
Mhm.
see any clinical reason, any medical reason, any scientific reason why a clinical trial would start with an overdose?
uh, I give them the benefit of the doubt, but of course that's not the right one to do because what we're using in the Zelenko protocol, the early treatment is actually the low dose hydroxychloroquine, not the high dose. So
The-
if you're doing a very high dose, then um, that would be a wrong
okay.
treatment.
And the regular dose is 200, is it, for prophylaxis and 400 for a patient? Is that correct? Milligrams?
We usually use the 400 milligram per day treatment for the early treatment.
In combination with azithromycin and zinc, correct?
Yes, zinc would be up to 50 milligram per day, and then azithromycin 500 milligram once a day.
Okay, one of the other issues that is raised is that there is no prophylaxis for COVID. What do you say?
For those who say there's no prophylaxis for COVID, well, actually here in the clinic, we're actually doing the prophylaxis already. So, so that we are protected from any encounter, any patient who becomes positive. So, so far, we're all good here.
How many months have you been under the prophylaxis?
Actually, that's a concern because I started the prophylaxis when I started here in J. Lopez Medical. But when I was previously that I was working in companies, industrial clinics, and it was not introduced to me. It was not introduced to the doctors. So that's the sad part of it is that we couldn't give it to our patient because it's not even introduced to us.
Right. Okay. So, where do you see this COVID problem going within the next few days or weeks?
Okay, we can only hope and pray that God guides the decision makers, the leaders, um, that also God return us our faith in Him. So it really depends on the decision makers, our leaders,
Would you have
so
any
that we can
suggestions?
actually.
Would you have any suggestions to them in case they happen to be listening? What would you suggest that they begin with?
Okay, that's a good question because I prepared the answer for that. So I give them the acronym LISTEN. So listen, letter L is to lift the lockdown. I think we have the longest lockdown in the world, and it's the high time already to just focus on some areas that need to be locked down and quarantine only the sick. The healthy should work, the healthy should earn a living so that we can pay for our supplements, buy our food, that healthy foods. So if we don't have income, how can they buy? And there's a lot of loss already during the lockdown. Loss of a job, it can be loss of income, loss of a lot of things. So, and then I is for immune focus. So after all the lockdowns, we tried to minimize the transmission, but we forgot, the government forgot to focus on the immune system, boosting the immune system, modulating the immune system. I think they have to focus now on boosting the immune system. And letter S is for the seniors. So actually, the Sweden has been successful with their no lockdown strategy, but they regretted one thing.
Right.
So in April, it like rose up the mortality, death rates there because they forgot about the seniors. So the senior citizens are actually more prone because their immune system actually is weakened already with their age. So we have to take care of our nursing homes, nursing care homes.
Mm-hmm.
And then letter T is for treat early.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the government has first hand. They are the frontliners there in terms of getting the COVID cases. So they can already treat early with this prophylaxis, with these early treatments of hydroxychloroquine, zinc, azithromycin, or if they don't want to use the hydroxychloroquine, they can use quercetin. There are other
Right.
alternative
Right.
for zinc ionophores.
Mm-hmm.
And then E is for employ the unemployed. The lockdown produced a lot of unemployment. So I think the government has a responsibility to produce employment for the unemployed from the lockdown. And then N is for National Day of Prayer. So I think, like Dr. Joel Lopez said, this is a spiritual battle.
Right.
I think we need a National Day of Prayer. The whole nation should pray and ask God for forgiveness and mercy.
Excellent. Thank you, doctor. How do you, as a doctor, one of our final questions, how do you, as a doctor, flatten the fear?
Okay, how do I flatten the fear as a doctor? Actually, in the initial phase of the lockdown, I was a contributor of the fear also.
How so?
Okay, so I was part of it. Like, oh, don't go there, it's scary, like that. You're gonna get sick, like that.
Okay.
So actually, I want to change that now because now we know now the virus, we know how it
Right.
works, and my role as a doctor actually is very powerful because I can actually create or uncreate fear on my patients
Mm-hmm.
and also to the persons I encounter outside.
Wow.
So to flatten the fear is to start with me also,
Right.
with myself.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Siegfried
Mm.
Galang.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mary.